In this lecture, we'll be taking a look at the concept called closures in JavaScript. Closures can be defined as something which wraps up an entire environment, binding necessary variables from other sources. So let's make it simple by taking a look at some examples. So we have a function over here called closure example, which is just accepting a parameter called name, and we have a local variable called greeting, which is concatenating hello with the variable that we have passed, that is name, and then we are simply returning an anonymous function which is alerting the variable greeting. So you can see that this function is actually returning a function, and this is what broadly is called closure in JavaScript. Now the best part is that the local variable that we have over here, greeting, is still available to this anonymous function even when this closure example has completed its execution. So here you can see that we are calling this closure example with the name John, and it has executed at line number 15. After that, when we are calling this function, call function, it's still able to refer to that greeting variable which is holding the concatenated string, that is hello and John. And that's what makes closures special. It makes local variables remain accessible after returning from the function that we just called. So let's see this example in action now, saving this and running it in browser. And there you go, you can see it over here, hello John, coming up. Now let's explore closures a bit more. Now we have another example over here. We have a method called increment number, and what we are going to show you is that whatever local variables that we have inside the closure, they are not simply copied, they are kept by reference, and you'll see how. So we have a variable called num with a value 666. Then we have an anonymous function over here which is simply alerting that number variable, and then we are incrementing the number variable and finally returning the show alert function. So over here, when we are calling this line at 35, we're calling the increment number function and then finally executing this get num. So what's exactly happening over here is when we call get num at line number 36, it will alert the number variable, but the value will be 667, that is 667, not 666, because it's having a reference to the local variable, not a copy of the local variable. So let's run this and see it in action. There you can see it's saying 667. Now there's one thing that you have to take care of when you're working with loops inside closures. For instance, we have a function called test list which is making use of another function called build list, and this build list is actually taking an array as a parameter. Now inside the build list we have an empty array declared as a local variable, and then all we're doing is looping through the list of items that we have passed over here as a parameter. So as you can see, it's just having 3 items in it, that is 1, 2, 3 numbers. So all we're doing is creating another variable inside the for loop, and we're saying item plus whatever value is there, that is 1, 2 and 3. So it will be like item 1, item 2 and item 3. Finally, whatever variable is there, we are pushing it in form of an anonymous function. So this anonymous function is simply alerting the item that we are passing over here, and that is what we are returning as a result. So finally, the result will be a collection of anonymous functions, 3 basically, and each having this alert statement. Now when we get that array back from the build list, that is the result array, we are looping through that and we are calling the function that is inside it. So at index position 0, whatever alert item will be there, that will be called, and we'll see the output when we will finally call the test list method. So let's go ahead and take a look at the output. As you can see, item 3 is coming up for the first time, second time and third time. So for all these we are just getting a similar value. Let's see the reason behind it. When we are calling this line result.push function alert item, this basically adds a reference to an anonymous function 3 times to the result array. And when we run it, we get this output item 3 times. This is because, just like in our previous examples, there is only one closure for the local variables for build list. That is, there is only one closure for all the local variables that will be there inside the function build list. Now when the anonymous functions are called on the line function list of j, that is over here at line number 58, they all use the same single closure, and they use the current value for I, and within that one closure. So obviously I is executed completely, and it will have the value 2, that is index position 2, and at index position 2 the value is 3, and that's what we are getting. So that is what you have to take care while working with loops inside a closure function. So to recap, whenever you use function inside another function, a closure is actually used over there.